North America. Welcome to American Wildlife. Welcome to the Alaska Peninsula. This is a wild and exotic place. It runs 1,500 miles all the way down to the Aleutian Islands. There's really no roads connecting this to any part of the world. It's just one of the most remote places that you've ever been. I've been going out here for about 32 summers, and I've seen all kinds of incredibly beautiful things. But you've also got incredible danger right here. This is part of that ring of fire that's produced so many volcanoes for so many years all over the western part of Alaska. This is all a part of Katmai National Park, 4.3 million acres of wilderness. The Valley of 10,000 Smokes is one of the great wildlife areas on Earth. Giant mountain ranges all along the edge of the Pacific Ocean with no houses and no people, just bears. In fact, it's the largest and densest population of brown bears in the world. Over a bear per square mile. That's incredible. We see maybe 30 to 50 brown bears in one day. This guy pops out from underneath the bush, and he's on the way to finding salmon as they turn red. Salmon are much easier for him to catch when they're bright red. They can see them, and they're a little slower. It's a great place for young bears to come and hang out. When you got that much food, they're going to play, knock each other around, play with their mom. And this is the best of all times when you've got that much food. Some of the danger here lurks beneath the ground. There are massive magma chambers all along this volcanic ridge. You can look at even a piece of water and there's methane gas popping up. These are just indications of how warm it is underneath the ground. And you can see just how volcanic the whole real estate looks like. In fact, on June 6, 1912, a monster went off. One whole volcano drained down into another volcanic tube, and all the hot ash came out of one hole in the ground from two separate volcanoes. This is the top of one of the volcanoes that went off. It imploded 1,700 feet. It was so loud that if you lived in Washington, D.C., and it erupted in Chicago, you would have heard it. It shot ash 27 miles up into the atmosphere for 60 hours and changed the mean temperature of the northern hemisphere by 2 degrees for 2 years. This eruption was so powerful it put ash in the Sahara Desert, and the valley was slathered with a thick gumbo of superheated rock and boiling ash. This must have been what it was like after the original eruption. Just huge winds blowing up and down the valley, blowing ash that is so fine that it gets into everything. It got into our cameras, it got into our backpacks, every bit of clothing that we had. We actually anchored our cameras with 50 pounds of weights to be able to continue to film. This volcano is west of Kodiak Island, but the winds are blowing the right way, and so about 150 miles away, it dumped 6 feet of ash. The residents just thought it was the end of the earth, and it literally loaded up boats and went offshore. So at first, some of the animals may have thought that the volcanic eruptions were weather changes. But soon there were vibrations in the earth, and everything started leaving the area. next couple of years, there were a number of adventurers who just went out on the valley on their own and looked around. When they first saw the valley itself, they were blown away. Here were giant steam vents all up and down the valley floor, literally hundreds and hundreds of them. Of course, they call it the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, but it was actually steam. And it was once a riverine valley. The steam was from an incredible blanket of extremely hot ash all over these streams and creeks. Well, water can't be compressed, so it came up through the valley floor as hot steam. It was completely covered in ash, 300 to 700 feet deep. Now, it's not loose. It's packed kind of like a construction site. You can walk on it. They actually roped down inside some of the steam vents. They looked all up and down the valley at the hot chambers of magma right underneath the surface that were steaming everything up. So they came in and cooked. They fried bacon and hot cakes and all kinds of things over the steam vents, scraped away the volcanic ash, put the ice to good use by making water. They created their own little world for several years, going back and forth into the valley and exploring. These are magma plugs from farther down the peninsula, but they're much like the plugs in the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. These ancient plugs have absolutely no life growing on them after all these years. There may be a few insects, a lichen or two, but you'll see no green plants. The ash is still 300 feet thick. And so today you can see exactly where the volcanic ash ends and where the forest begins. Eroded these big walls of ash and made it all kinds of unusual shapes. The fluted tops here have been hammered on by 50 and 60-mile-an-hour winds day after day. Water, of course, rushes through the valley floor and creates little canyon-like areas, much like miniature Grand Canyons. The force of the water is incredible, and it waters a big area down below the valley itself. Volcanic area like this after a big eruption looks like the end of the earth, but it really is more like the beginning of a new kind of earth. You're getting all kinds of nutrients, and the ash itself is permeable, so water will pass through it and deliver those nutrients right into the soil. And some of the birds are even nesting right along the edge of the valley in ash. Salmon came back after this original eruption, and very quickly, and in short order, the bears and the salmon were right back at it again. Today, a majority of the people who come here don't even know that this is an active volcanic area. So today, there's still many, many bears, lots and lots of salmon, and just about everybody has salmon on their plate at one time or another in the summer. The tectonic plates are still moving. And the valley floor has a few surprises of its own. There's still a magma chamber less than a kilometer down, according to some scientists, that is as big as the original eruption. But for now, the valley floor is quiet. There are still all kinds of critters making their living right along the edge of the valley. But underneath, deep down below the surface of the valley, there's a sleeping giant. A giant just waiting to roar again.